everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm really excited that you're here. If we haven't met, I'm Maggie Detloff, Assistant Curator of Photography and New Media here at Cantor. It's my super duper most greatest pleasure to introduce tonight's event, Who Was Dimples? Reperforming History in Theater and Visual Arts, an artist talk and theatrical reading with Miljohn Ruperto. This event is presented in conjunction with our current exhibition, which I have the privilege of curating at home on stage, Asian American Representation in Photography and Film, which is one of 3 inaugural exhibitions of the Asian American Art Initiative, co-founded and co-directed by my colleague Elisa Pitchmarn-Alexander, our Associate Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, and Marcy Kwan, Assistant Professor of Art and Art History. But before I continue on, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. The one I read is not Stanford's standard land acknowledgement, but was developed by Elisa and Marcy to further acknowledge the interconnected histories of land and labor, displacement and immigration, and United States colonialism. Stanford occupies the ancestral land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. The land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. On this land, Chinese migrant laborers helped construct the university and worked in Stanford's residence. As president of Central Pacific Railroad Company, Leland Stanford employed Chinese migrants to do the more hazardous, backbreaking work of building the Transcontinental Railroad. Between 1863 and 1869, 15 to 20,000 Chinese laborers helped execute one of the most ruthless engineering ventures in American history, a colonial project that displaced countless indigenous people and allowed the Stanfords to amass significant wealth. In 1882, the enactment of the first Chinese Exclusion Act effectively closed the door to Chinese immigrants and forced many Chinese migrants who were already living with the threat of violence to flee. So we are so grateful to be here on this land and recognize those who literally built the institution that we are visiting tonight. So tonight's event will begin with an artist talk by Miljohn Ruperto introducing his practice and focusing on his project about the actress Isabel Rosario Cooper. 2 artworks from this suite of works is on view and at home on stage. I hope you had a chance to see the show before we got started. The 2 works in the show are the appearance of Isabel Rosario Cooper, 16mm film, and also a screenplay written by Ruperto and his co-writer Jean Shin called Dimples. So following Ruperto's introduction to the work, we'll welcome members of Stanford's student-run Asian American Theater Project for a theatrical reading of select scenes from the screenplay with stage directions read by Jean. The screenplay has never before been read or performed in such a venue, so this is a really special and exciting occasion. Afterwards, myself and Chloe Chow, artistic director of the Asian American Theater Project, will moderate a conversation between Ruperto and the actors and all of you. So please be thinking of questions as we go. And before I introduce our participants, I'd like to note that tonight's event is a hybrid in-person and live stream event. So thank you and welcome to all of you, whether you are here in person or joining us from your couch. And in that case, I envy you. If you're tuning in via Zoom, please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. Okay, introduction. So Miljohn Ruperto is a Los Angeles-based artist working across photo, film, performance, and animation. Born in Manila, he received his BA in studio art from the University of California, Berkeley, and his MFA from Yale University. His work has been exhibited internationally in such venues as the Singapore Biennale, the Whitney Museum of American Art, in New York, the Hammer Museum, LA, Cadiz, San Francisco, Parasite, Hong Kong, Haus der Kulturen der Welt, Berlin, and many others. He's also been the recipient of the Rima Hortman Foundation Grant, the Art Matters Grant, and the Foundation for Contemporary Arts Grant. Miljohn often works in collaboration with other artists, and his work often involves replicas and enactments to challenge fixed conceptions of truth and history. The Stanford Asian American Theater Project is a student-run organization dedicated to empowering artists and audiences to engage with issues affecting the API community, facilitate discussions of these issues within the Stanford community, and participate in the creation of a more equitable, just world through the language of theater. Established in 1978 by David Henry Hwang and Nancy Takahashi Hitami, for over 40 years, the Asian American Theater Project has promoted Asian American involvement in theater by cultivating aspiring writers, directors, actors, producers, etc., etc. Joining us tonight to read from Dimples, we have Georgia Limcalco, Robert Castaneros, Serena Tran, Diana Kong, Bin Nguyen, Paolo Macalino, and Vivian Audong. Chloe Chow is not only my co-moderator, she's been a great help organizing this event. She did the casting and directing for the table read. So thank you to these incredible students for their participation tonight. And I also just want to do a couple quick thank yous. Thank you to documentary, film, and video MFA student Susanna Barong, who is providing invaluable support for our live stream and event recording, and also the Cantor staff whose contributions have made and are making tonight's event, as well as our presentation of Miljohn's work, possible. So with that, we will finally get started. Please join me in welcoming Miljohn.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Great. So, I'm going to talk about this group of works I made years ago. And I'm just going to, we'll just jump right into it. We'll just jump into it. And I think it's helpful to talk about how I made the decisions that made the work, and maybe some mistakes. But thank you, Maggie, and thank you, the Cantor, for having me here. Okay. So, Isabel Rosario, the first time I heard about Isabel Rosario Cooper was when I was a kid. I knew somehow in the back of my head that General Douglas MacArthur had a Filipino mistress, right? And that's always stuck with me for some reason. And one day I was in a library sale, and I found this book by Carol Patillo called Douglas MacArthur, The Philippine Years. And the book was a strange psychoanalytic take on General Douglas MacArthur and his relationships. But within that, within the footnotes of the book, I found a treasure trove of information, and this, and so I just started thinking about Isabel Cooper, where she's from, and who is this person? And so what you're looking at now are a series of headshots that Isabel Cooper had made when she moved to Hollywood in 1940, right? So, sort of a quick background. Isabel Cooper was she was a vaudeville performer in the Philippines in the 20s, and she met MacArthur during that time, and they started having a relationship while she was still a teenager. Eventually, MacArthur was called back to Washington, and he brought Isabel Cooper over with him to stay at this hotel, the Chaselton Hotel. And then the relationship lasted around 4 years. And then eventually she moved, the relationship dissolved, and Cooper moved to to the West Coast to to become a screen actor in Hollywood. Yeah. Okay. So through my research, I discovered that she was from the same neighborhood I'm from in Manila, from Paco. And so somehow this made my tie to Isabel Cooper a lot stronger. Thinking about, this neighborhood kid, separated by decades, sort of, I'm kind of following her trajectory also in coming to the United States when, I was 8 at the time. Okay, so these are her headshots, and usually I show them along with the other works, so the series of her headshots. And one of my what I wanted somehow as an artist was to hope that, or to place value on these headshots that, that she gave away to the studios and so on. And as you can see, she had different outfits on. And, there's one that's Polynesian, and there's one more Filipina, and another one that's, Chinese. Okay. So one of the first works I made, it's funny to say it's the first one, but because it took forever to make, it's called The Appearance of Isabel Rosario Cooper, and that's what's showing upstairs at the show. And basically, through my research, I found the clips that Isabel Cooper was in these Hollywood productions, and I collected them all together and made a film. But through a digital intervention, I blurred everyone else out except for Isabel Cooper. So there's a clip. So this film is around 12 minutes long, and as you can see, Cooper played a lot of different roles and different ethnicities. He was very Pan-Asian, and at times, she plays Native American, Polynesian, Indonesian, in this case, or Japanese. Thai. This is from the Anna and the King of Siam. Okay. So this is transferred to film, and this is sort of how it looks like. So the way this project was done was through waterscape, where you trace out an image of something frame by frame. But there's software that helps you interpret in between. But this project took a really long time. It took years for me to collect the films that she was in, but also to do the actual work. So, as this is going on, so the project really started when Gina and I, it was still during my research where she and I went to Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, and this is where Isabel Cooper is buried. But she's buried in an unmarked grave. And so Gina and I were there, and I was thinking about, what should I do? I want to make a work about Isabel Cooper, but what should that be? And so my first inclination was, I'm going to make a tombstone, or a marker for Isabel Cooper. And I knew that was the thing to do. And so I was mulling over this idea, right? And then I realized that actually I want to do the opposite. Right? I don't want to make a memorial or something like that. I want to do something else, right? And so I started thinking about many things, and one of maybe a model I wanted to think about I was thinking about in relation to this project was the whole idea of ghosts, right? I wanted somehow Isabel Cooper to come out and help the president. And I will be the medium for this operation. Where she haunts a present where I don't speak for her. This was something really important to me. So these are just stills. Like this one, Isabel Cooper plays Native American. Okay. So one thing I started thinking about was how do ghosts work? And so, can you see? Yeah. So I'm going to use a pointer. So this is my take on how ghost works. Okay, so this line is shared history. Everything above here is shared history, right? And so usually there's a murder, there's an event, right? And in this event, this crime is splits off from shared history, right? And it becomes a hidden history, right? And so it splits off, right? But the split history has so much energy, like so much pressure of injustice, right? That it always wants to come up and join the shared history, right? And so when there's enough pressure of this hidden history and it butts up against the shared history, there appears a ghost, right? And so, the protagonist or whatever would see the ghost and be inspired to look into this crime that's been hidden, right? So sometimes they literally dig down, and find the dead body and figure out the mystery, right? And somehow this injustice then becomes contextualized with a shared history, right? This makes sense. Yeah. So for me, that's how ghost works. I mean, a particular kind of ghost. And so I was having all these conversations about ghosts, and and so people started asking me what's my favorite ghost, and so I'm going to show you this clip from The Ring, which is my favorite ghost. So, of course, in the movie, the protagonist digs down this well and finds this dead body, and then inters the body and gives it a Christian burial or whatever, to contextualize the ghost, right?
You don't really like Amelia.
Don't you have to leave work?
Not today.
What happened to the ghost?
Smarter?
Is that her name? Mm-hmm. Is she still in the dark place?
No. Set her free.
You helped her?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
What's wrong, honey?
You weren't supposed to help her.
It's okay now. She's not gonna hurt you. She...
Don't you understand, Rachel? She never sleeps.
So, so the ghost in The Ring is amazing, right? Because the ghost doesn't care about forgiveness or being contextualized in history, right? It's a ghost that exists to haunt, and it haunts to exist, and it's this malevolent ghost. But it's a really potent ghost, right? The ghost is never satiated. You can never make things right, for this ghost. And I thought that was such a lovely model of a ghost. A ghost that resists historicization, right? Which is sort of a similar thing that I was thinking about in making this project, right? And so one of the main things that I had to really deal with was, okay, if I'm not historicizing Isabel Cooper, what am I doing? How is this project working? And one of the ways I thought about it was to use fiction to sort of pop her out of her historical context, right? And have her just float around, and haunt. And so, so this became sort of my strategy, right, for this project. So the next work I made was this film. It was shot in digital and transferred to film, also 16 millimeter. And it's, I'll just play a little bit of it. It's really difficult to show this work because of lighting. But So I don't know if it's clear, but there's a shadow at the end of the hallway that sways back and forth and sings this song about longing. And then the ghost then dissolves back into the shadows. And so I wanted to make a cinematic haunting. And to have a film about a ghost. And so everything is invented, right? This song is taken from a song from the 20s. Yeah. So one thing I guess I should have brought up was that Isabel Cooper, she landed all these big parts in Hollywood, right? But never really, she never really got a leading role, or it never really took off for her. And in 1960, she committed suicide while she was still living in Hollywood. And so, yeah. So in a way, for me, her ghost still haunts LA. Okay. So this is an installation shot of the work. Okay, so the third part of the project is Dimples, and it's a screenplay, and the screenplay was, I wanted it to be a work for Isabel Cooper. She didn't have all the, she didn't have a leading part, in her life, and so I wanted one where she could easily play herself, So she plays a Hollywood version of herself, And I wanted it also to be a 1930s romantic screwballs comedy, and so something really anachronistic, and yeah, so that was really important for me and Jean. So I came up with a structure of it, and Jean wrote the screenplay. And one of the things we discussed was that I wanted Isabelle to be, 2 steps ahead of everyone in the screenplay, in the story, right? Where she kind of weaves in and out, and she's kind of like a Bugs Bunny character, where she's much more, she just runs circles around everyone else, and all her plans come to fruition, and she's just really clever. And it's funny because, it's not that many people read the screenplay, I feel like, so it's nice, that this is happening. And there's a focus on this one particular work, because I think a lot of time, it's a lot of text also, and usually I make it available if I show it to be downloadable so people can read it. Yeah. Okay. And so the last part of the works is called Arden Cho as Isabel Rosario Cooper. And I wanted to make, this is 22 minutes. So I'll just play it while I talk. So there's no sound. So I wanted to make a a reenactment, like a historical reenactment, but nothing happens, right? So, or what happens is someone just waits. So in the video, Isabel Cooper just waits in the Cheselton Hotel, but you don't know what she's waiting for. So everything is sort of on hold. Right? And she goes through, she eats breakfast, she smokes a cigarette, she dances with herself, she reads letters, but nothing really happens, right? When I was shooting this film, I was telling my cinematographer that I wanted to make a Chantal Ackerman film, but shot by, or directed by a car commercial director. And so I think, it was achieved. But one of the things I thought early on was that this is such an artist thing to think. I was thinking like, oh, if I make it shiny enough, that would really show how much it's staged. That this, it's going to read as a film, like as a Hollywood film or a commercial or something like this. But I learned that it actually just makes it more of a window, like straight into the world of the film, Yeah. And Arden, coincidentally, has a new show up on Netflix called Partner Track. Yeah, so she's going someplace. She's going places. Yeah. So one of the, I was talking to some students earlier today, and we're talking about responses to works, right? Like what do you expect? What do you want your work to do in the world? What kind of response would be ideal for you? Years ago, there was a scholar, an academic, who contacted me because she saw the work in New York at my gallery in New York, and she wanted to come visit me and do a studio visit. And so we talked, and her name is Bernadette Gonzalez, right? And she teaches at the University of Hawaii. And we had this conversation, and because she was writing a book about Isabel Cooper, and one of the, and she writes, she devotes a chapter to the work, this work and someone else's work, but it was such a great, lovely response, that this person took the strategies, and kind of the attitude of the project, and and used it in their own book, to think about, to kind of show and not show, this type of strategy, right? Centering, but obscuring at the same time. And so, yeah. So one of the best responses ever for this body of work was someone wrote a book about it. Yeah. Thanks, Bernadette. Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I guess I learned from making this work also is that, you know, like there's one time where I was in the middle of this, and I thought to myself that I was just this is gonna be it. I'm just gonna, for the rest of my career or my life, I'll just be making work around Isabel Rosario Cooper, you know, and just keep making these works. But yeah, of course, things have shifted, and yeah. So, you know, if you've seen this Chantal Ackerman film, Chantilly, it's kind of a shout out to that scene. Okay, so we're going to have a Q&A after the reading, but yeah, that's my presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Scene change and get our actors up on stage. Do you want this to keep playing?
Yeah.
Just going to put back on one of your. How about this slide?
So we're going to be reading a few scenes or a few excerpts from the screenplay Dimples. And we're starting in the middle of the screenplay, a few scenes in, with two characters, Isabelle, a teenage girl who has been locked in her hotel room for some months, and Millie, a hotel maid. Interior, hotel corridor, evening. Millie looks around the empty corridor nervously as she unlocks the door. The door swings open and Isabelle tiptoes out in a celadon silk gown and high-heeled silk bedroom slippers. Isabelle gives an excited little shriek.
Oh, Millie, you're the best. I knew you'd come through. For heaven's sake, shush. And don't let the door lock behind you. I won't be here to let you back in.
They start down the corridor together, and Millie gazes at Isabelle admiringly.
You do look awfully pretty, Belle. You haven't planned some rendezvous with the mysterious gentleman, have you?
As if I'd ever had a chance to meet a gentleman.
Well, I better get going before someone sees me talking to you. Mind you, be careful, Belle. Remember, if anyone asks you how you got out of your room...
I promise I won't tell a soul. I'll tell them I climbed out of the window.
In those shoes.
Interior, hotel bar, same evening. Though elegant, the Cheesecake bar is far from fashionable. Its clientele is mostly made up of middle-aged Washington bureaucrats and elderly society patrons. Isabelle tiptoes into the bar and looks around furtively. Once she is satisfied that no one here knows her, she walks in with self-conscious elegance. In her bright silk gown and sparkling jewelry, she is totally out of place among the tweeds and gray suits. The pianist, Billy, is playing Chopin on the grand piano. He notices her and smiles, and she smiles back gratefully. With his fingers still pounding the keyboard, he leans toward her as she passes.
Hey, Belle. Good to see you back here. Is the old man with you, or did you sneak out by your lonesome?
Hi, Billy. I'm here by myself.
Well, good for you. You should come down and see us more often. What do you want to hear? I'll take a request just from you.
Really? Oh, let's see. What was that one thing that you played last time? Like, la 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 la, I've got na na, la 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 la. Who could ask for anything more?
Oh, aha.
Billy transitions seamlessly from Chopin into an enthusiastic rendition of Gershwin's I've Got Rhythm. Isabelle happily waltzes to an unoccupied little table near the piano and sits down, looking very pleased with herself. The waitress, Rita, a good-looking woman in her early 30s with dark hair and an attitude, comes over to take Isabelle's order.
Hi, honey. Haven't seen you here in a while. You're breaking out the big house, huh? What can I get you?
Hi, Rita. I'll have a... Oh, what was that drink you gave me the last time?
Terribly elegant with the cherry candy.
One pink lady. Coming right up.
Oh, and Rita?
Yeah.
Can I charge this and say that I ordered it delivered to my room, huh?
Oh, sure thing, honey. He finds out I've been serving you drinks down here at the bar, and it's my neck and the news right next to yours.
Hey, Belle,
Both women turn to face him.
I'm playing this number just for you. You've got to dance for us.
Go on and dance. You might as well make the most of your poor night out, you kid.
Well, but I haven't got anyone to dance with. Rita, will you?
Me?
Come on, Rita, let's dance.
Isabel takes Rita's arm and tries to get him to dance.
Oh no, I got work to do, honey, but maybe Mr. Pearson here can dance with me.
This last is directed at Owen Pearson, who has just entered the lounge. Owen is young, slender, and handsome.
What can I get you, Mr. Pearson? The usual?
Yes, thanks, Rita.
One bourbon and a water.
It's pretty lively here tonight. For a moment there, I thought I'd wandered into the wrong bar. What's the occasion?
We're celebrating Belle's
Rita gives Billy a warning look.
or we're celebrating Belle's birthday.
Ah, well, happy birthday, Miss Belle.
The camera focuses on Owen and Isabel as they talk. In the background, we see the bar manager enter the lounge. Rita spots him and hurriedly turns away, busying herself with the glasses at the bar. The manager goes over to the piano and begins to berate Billy angrily. Billy stops the swing mid-measure and sulkily begins to play Bach.
Well, it looks like there won't be much more dancing tonight. Would you like to sit down? I'm Owen Pearson, by the way.
It would be a pleasure, Mr. Pearson.
Please, call me Owen.
My name's Isabel Rosario Cooper. Everyone around here calls me Belle.
You look like you're on your way to some grand birthday event. Sure that this crowd of maiden aunts and newspaper men isn't the intended audience for that gown.
I'm supposed to stay in the hotel, but I was thinking I might step out a little later on. You wouldn't happen to know?
She looks around quickly to make sure no one's within earshot, but comes face to face with Rita, who is passing by the table with a tray of drinks.
Know what, my dear?
Nothing. As I was saying, I was thinking I'd spend the evening here, quietly listening to piano music before I go back to my room and get into bed.
Rita smiles, satisfied, and walks on. Owen looks from Rita to Isabel, puzzled.
Well, in any case, congratulations on your birthday, Belle.
I may as well confess that it isn't really my birthday today. Billy and Rita were just having a bit of fun with me.
I would have thought that the Chasleton Arms Hotel Bar would be much fun for a young girl's birthday party anyway.
Oh, I don't know. Last month I came here for my 17th birthday, and Rita threw a little party for me. It was quite a lot of fun.
Your 17th birthday.
He turns to Rita, who is just now arriving at the table with her tray.
Let's see, one bourbon and water and one pink lady with extra cherry candy.
Do you know this girl is 17?
Well, we don't put too much gin in it. I've been given charge to look after Belle for the evening, Mr. Pearson. You'll keep an eye on her for me, will you?
Rita walks away. Owen is quite confused now.
And what's a 17-year-old girl doing in the Chasleton Arms Hotel Bar on a Friday evening just up to the nines?
Looking for handsome young men to buy her drinks, naturally. What about you? What are you doing here if you find it so dull?
For a moment, Owen considers pursuing his questions by Isabel, but decides to let her change the subject.
Oh, I like a doll. My fiancé is in Baltimore this weekend to visit some friends of hers, and I'm on my own. Sophie approves of this place. She figures I'm not likely to get into any trouble here, and it's a quiet place for me to unwind after work.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a journalist. My brother Drew started up a newspaper here in town, the Clarion.
The Aquarian. I think I've heard of it.
You may have. It's a small outfit, and it's pretty new yet, but it's a good little rag. It's already creating a bit of a stir. We've got a new series on General MacArthur that we think will make people sit up and take notice.
Isabel is a bit taken aback, but she covers it well.
General MacArthur. Well, that's very interesting. I think I'd like another cocktail. How about you?
I think I'd better say goodnight soon.
Oh, stay for another drink, won't you? It's been ages since I've talked to another human being.
Well, all right. One more drink, and then I've got to go.
Goody! One more bourbon and water here, please. And one pink lady.
Interior, hotel bar, same evening. A couple hours later, the bar is almost empty now, and the manager has apparently gone home. A recorded jitterbug tune plays on Victrola. Rita and the bartender are slow dancing, dreamily, and way out of step with the music. Milia's here now, too. She's flirting with Billy, who has stopped playing the piano and is obviously very drunk. Owen and Isabel are laughing and dancing a fast, sloppy jitterbug, They're pretty drunk too. The table they previously occupied is now covered with empty glasses.
Ouch.
Hey, watch that foot, mister.
What do you mean, watch that foot? You stepped on me.
Because your foot was in the way. So watch that foot.
Let's sit down, Estelle.
Good idea. Brother, am I ever exhausted.
The two flop down at a nearby table.
Waiter, another drink, please.
I don't think you're going to get that drink. I don't think you need it either.
So now we're going to skip forward a little bit in the screenplay, and this is a scene where there'll be a voiceover of a letter that was written by Douglas MacArthur, and we'll hear his voice in the voiceover. Interior hotel suite parlor, morning. Isabel wakes up. She is lying on the sofa, still in last night's clothes. Loud knocking comes from the front door.
Miss Cooper, may I come in?
Yes, I'm here.
The door unlocks and opens, and a young bellhop enters, holding a letter.
Miss Cooper? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, what is it?
I've got a letter here for you.
Thank you.
I'm supposed to wait here while you read it, and I think I better let you have some privacy.
Isabel isn't listening. She's already forgotten all about him. He slips out. As Isabel reads the letter, the smile fades from her face.
Dear Isabelle,
Interior hotel suite hallway, day. The door to the bathroom is ajar. Through the crack, we see Isabel sobbing on the floor as though her heart would break.
it is with sorrow and displeasure that I inform you you will no longer be staying at the Chiselton Arms Hotel. This morning I was informed of your nighttime activities by one of my colleagues who happened by the hotel last night.
Interior hotel bedroom, day. Isabelle, her face totally expressionless, packs her clothes into a large suitcase. The clothes are all slippery satins and laces. She apparently has no street clothes whatsoever.
You may imagine the shock and shame with which I received this information. I am deeply disappointed by your subordination.
Interior hotel suite, MacArthur's office, day. Isabelle takes the tray of change and dumps it all into a little satin purse. She hesitates and then boldly tries one of the desk drawers. It is locked. Isabelle gets a long, thin ruler from the top of the desk and jimmies open the drawer. Inside are passbooks, various little ledgers, and a roll of bills. She peels off a couple of bills and puts the rest back. She starts to close the drawer, and then she changes her mind. She takes the entire roll.
You will be returning to Manila. I have arranged passage for you on a ship that departs from Baltimore at 4 p.m. My assistants will arrive this afternoon to escort you.
Interior hotel suite parlor, day. Isabelle takes off her crystal earrings and wraps them in a handkerchief. She puts the knotted package on the table next to the door. She writes a note, 4 Millie, XOXO, Isabelle. She looks around the hotel suite, which is tidy and empty.
I have asked my colleague to write this letter and arrange its delivery to you. I sincerely hope and expect that you do not deviate from these instructions in any way.
Interior hotel suite parlor, day. The door to the suite is opened by a bellhop who assists Isabelle with her suitcase. 2 military policemen, Red and O'Reilly, wait in the corridor. She follows the bellhop out of the suite, wearing the most appropriate clothes that she has, a short green satin dress, a knitted lace cardigan, and high-heeled bedroom slippers. The door swings shut, leaving us in darkness as MacArthur's voice intones the end of his letter.
Thank you for your company and your discretion during these past months. I'm sorry that our friendship has come to such an abrupt ending. I wish you luck in your future endeavors. Yours sincerely, Douglas MacArthur.
Okay, now we'll be skipping forward again, a few scenes, and we are now interior of Millie's room. Millie and Isabelle sit on Millie's bed, each looking through a newspaper.
Here's something. Now hiring experienced young maids for a prestigious downtown hotel.
Ugh, a hotel maid? Haven't you had enough of that?
I guess so.
The girls go back to browsing.
How about this? Nursemaid wanted for 4 children, 2 girls, 2 boys, aged 2 through 13. Must have references.
4 children? Yikes, no thank you.
The girls are quiet as they look through the ads.
Say, I have an idea. Remember the time I hopped in that ocean liner to Cuba?
Boy, do I.
One of the gentlemen I met on the cruise ship has a nightclub here in the city. I'll bet he'd hire us to perform in one of his shows. Wouldn't that be fun?
What kind of show? Remember, Belle, I'm a good Catholic girl.
No. Ramon said it was a real classy joint with international performers. Piano, singing, that sort of thing. We won't do anything your mother wouldn't approve of, I promise you. Maybe we could put together a song and dance number.
Me? Put on a song and dance number? I can't sing and I can't dance.
That won't matter. We'll find something for you to do. You'll see.
Interior, backstage at Club Shishi. There is a general hustle and bustle in the backstage of this small and run-down, but not disreputable nightclub. There are workers hammering props, 2 men moving a piano, and a couple of young dancers dressed in street clothes and carrying enormous feathered headdresses. Ramon, a small middle-aged man with a pencil mustache and a baggy suit, talks to Isabelle and Millie.
Let's see. Can you sing? Can you dance? Do you play any instruments?
Well, I can sing. And I dance rather well too, I've been told.
Of course you can, Belle. I remember very well how beautifully you dance.
Millie here, unfortunately, doesn't know how to sing or dance, but surely you've got some job that she could do? Maybe she could wait tables?
Ah, I have just a thing for both of you. Belle, my pretty darling, you would be perfect for a new act that I would like to try out. Yes, it is truly fortunate that you walked in here today. A headlining act, Belle, and you will be the star.
Isabel's face lights up.
And Millicent, such a pretty face, such a graceful figure. One of our young ladies left town quite suddenly a few weeks ago. Not even a goodbye. It was quite a shock. But you look like you might fit nicely into her dress. Yes, I think you'll do just fine.
Millie looks at Belle glumly.
Thank you so much, Ramon. This is going to be such fun.
My pleasure, Bonita.
Oh, this is going to be just terrific, all right.
Interior, Club Shishi. Millie is on stage dressed in a glamorous satin gown and high heels. She's assisting a magician, an elderly man dressed in a tuxedo. Millie opens a box and a rabbit hops out. She feigns shock as the rabbit scampers away. The audience laughs and cheers. Millie and the magician bow and exit to much applause. Interior, backstage at Club Shishi. The crowd is still applauding as Millie exits the stage. Isabelle is preparing to go on stage. She is dressed in a hobo costume, oversized patched trousers, suspenders, and a misshapen stove-cut hat with dirt smudged on her face.
Oh, this is so much fun, Isabelle.
I don't see why you get to be the magician's assistant and I have to be a hobo.
Oh, darling, don't look so glum. You know very well that they need you for the musical number because you are such a talented singer and dancer. Bonita. Anyway, you look absolutely adorable.
Isabelle fixes her hat, gives Millie a very dark look, and stalks away. Interior, Club Shishi. Isabelle's dark cloud evaporates the moment she steps on stage. Her face lights up, and she is on. She is joined by 2 men in hobo costumes. They sing Ain't We Got Fun while performing a hilarious slapstick dance routine. Okay, so now we skip forward again a little bit, and we are now interior of the Aquarian newspaper office. Owen Pearson and several other men are working at their typewriters. A couple of other men work at their mock-ups. They're tense and quiet. Something is up. The door to Drew Pearson's office opens, and Drew pops his head out.
Owen, Steinsapier, Greenberg, will you come in for a moment? Mr. Cunningham, you'd better hear this too.
Interior, Drew Pearson's office. Drew paces nervously in his tiny office. The men file in. Cunningham and Owen sit down in the only 2 chairs available. The others stand or lean against the wall.
So tell us, Drew, what did he say?
Well, men, as you know, our friend Douglas MacArthur is less than happy with the coverage he's been getting from this newspaper.
Cut to the chase, Drew.
$900,000. Douglas MacArthur has filed suit against the Clarion and me for libel to the tune of $900,000.
The men take a moment to digest this information. One of the men lets out a low whistle.
900,000? That's going to sink this paper.
Drew, we're going to fight this, right? No jury is going to. I mean, every fact you wrote in those articles was true.
Owen, the funds MacArthur has at his disposal are practically unlimited. He's made it clear that he's going to throw every dollar he's got behind this lawsuit. If we win the case in Superior Court, he's going to take it to the Court of Appeals, on up to the Supreme Court if he has to. This isn't going to be just one battle. It's going to be a war. A war the Clarion just doesn't have enough money to fight. He'll bankrupt us with just judgment, or he'll bankrupt us with legal fees. Either way, the Clarion goes under and he wins.
Drew, what are you saying? What are you planning to do?
I don't know. He says that if we run a front page retraction, he'll drop the suit.
The men are stunned and silent for a moment.
You're not going to retract the articles. I don't believe it for a minute.
Mr. Pearson, with all due respect, we can't just do that.
Those articles told the truth. We'll lose all our credibility if we retract them.
Boy's right. It goes against every grain of everything this paper stands for.
Drew looks at each of the men in turn, finally turning to Owen. He gives a sad little smile.
I was hoping that you would say that. To tell you the truth, my mind was pretty much made up. But I felt I couldn't make a decision like this without the approval of my board. Then, we are agreed, gentlemen. We'll fight this thing to the end. Make no mistake, this will be the end. Well, you better give the news to the rest of the staff.
The men shuffle and rise. Drew remains sitting a moment longer at his desk, looking blank. Owen comes behind him and rests his hand gently on Drew's back. Drew stands up and they walk out the door together. Interior Clarion office. The men enter the main office. It's obvious that no one has been working. All staff turn expectantly towards the men. Drew leans against a nearby table and faces them.
First of all, I want to thank each one of you for your work with the Clarion. Our series on Douglas MacArthur in particular. As you're probably aware, the series has created quite a stir. The articles have even caught the attention of the general himself. Unfortunately, the reaction from that quarter has been less than enthusiastic.
Drew pauses here to wax cigarette. His back shifts uneasily.
The general has filed a lawsuit against this paper for libel. I and the rest of your board have decided to fight the charges. The general is hoping that by this lawsuit, he will silence us. I hope that you will agree with me when I say that we will not be silenced. We will not be bullied. This paper will not be used to help the powerful and the corrupt deceive the American people. We're going to fight this. I'm asking for your support in this fight. It isn't going to be easy. We have the truth and the right on our side. On his side, he has power, money, and resources that we cannot hope to match. The next few months are going to be difficult, and I don't know how long the Clarion will be able to survive. Should any of you decide that you need to find another job, I won't hold it against you, and I'll be happy to provide a reference on your behalf.
The staff is silent for a moment, then one of them, Dan Meyer, goes to Drew to shake his hand.
We're with you all the way through. I'm proud to be part of this team.
Thank you.
Man, you got a brave leader here.
The staff nod and generally voice their approval and support. A couple of the men get up to talk to Drew and Owen and thank him. One of the men, Reynolds, shakes his head.
Well, Drew, I sure hope you beat us. Douglas MacArthur is a tough opponent to go up against. It's funny. Seems like MacArthur just can't stay out of the news. Did you see the story on The Wire today? He seems he's getting married to some heiress.
I saw that too. Part of the J.P. Morgan baking family.
The man's a sleaze, if you ask me. I heard he got rid of that teenage mistress of his.
Teenage mistress?
You've never heard of it?
Heard what?
Well, my sister works at the Olympia Hotel at DuPont Circle, right across from this other hotel, the Chastleton Arms. And her chums at the Chastleton said she's kept a girl there.
Everyone's listening now, and Paulette clearly relishes the attention.
A young little thing from the Philippines. Kept her locked up too, poor girl. Like, she was just walled up in a tower. Well, I guess now he's getting married. He's got rid of the girl.
Well, a marriage, mistress, and a lawsuit. Our friend the general certainly keeps himself busy.
Well, I've never seen her, but they say she's real pretty, like a China doll.
The realization hits Owen like a ton of bricks.
Good God.
What is it, Owen?
I don't want to say until I know something for sure, but let's hold off on looking for new employment for the time being.
So we're skipping ahead again, a few scenes, and now we're at interior limousine, day. Eisenhower and MacArthur confer in the back of the limousine. The limo is being driven by a uniformed chauffeur through the streets of Washington. MacArthur's face, as always, is hidden by shadow so that his features are not discernible.
Have you heard from them since our meeting?
Not a word, sir. It seems they are determined to go through with this ordeal.
You'd think that this Pearson fellow would have better sense. I wonder if he's still planning to have Isabelle denounce me.
He didn't definitively say, sir, but I rather doubt it. When I warned him of the consequences of bringing Miss Cooper to light, he seemed quite rattled.
Good. Although, with Pearson, as reckless as he is, I guess you never know for sure what he'll do. And Isabelle, too. She's unpredictable as hell.
True. I've taken all the precautions we discussed just in case. And our witnesses to Miss Cooper's character are all prepared to testify, and they can be mobilized at a moment's notice.
By the time this is over, Drew Pearson will think twice before he so much as mentions me in print.
He won't have the opportunity, sir. By the time Judge Prescott is through with him, he won't own a newspaper to mention you in.
That's right. Christ, what a headache this has been. Well, I suppose it'll be over soon.
You must always be prepared for any surprises.
Exterior, street outside Chesterton Arms Hotel, day. A hobo, Isabelle, disguised of course, lies sleeping on a bench under a tree across the street from the hotel. A moving van is parked at the curb just outside the hotel entrance. There are two huge decorative urns next to the hotel entrance. Two movers in painters' uniforms come out of the hotel carrying stacked boxes. They set them on the curb and go back into the hotel. A third person in a painter's uniform comes walking up the street. It's Millie, her hair tucked under her cap. She begins loading the boxes into the van. After a few minutes, the two movers return with more boxes and a steamer truck. When they see Millie, they put down their boxes and hurry over.
Hey, kid, what do you think you're doing?
Hi there. You're moving these boxes out of the Chesterton Arms Hotel storage, aren't you?
What's this? Who are you anyway?
Miles Matthews. The company sent me along to lend you a hand.
The hell they did. Why would the company send you along? You're from the union, aren't you?
The union?
I'll bet he is. Checking up on us, huh? Go ahead. You want to see my card? I got nothing to hide.
I'm not from the union, fellas. Honest. The company just sent me along to help. They said they wanted a third person on the job.
No, I don't like it.
Well, what's wrong? I'm not taking anything from you. With 3 men on the job, the work will go faster.
That's exactly right, buddy. We get paid by the hour. The faster the work, the less I get paid. Understand?
Look, guys, I don't want to make any trouble. I'm just trying to do my job, same as you.
Oh, Lou, forget it. Poor kid do work. But not too fast, you hear?
All right, I get it. Do you want me to start stacking these boxes in the van or what?
Exterior, street outside Chesterton Arms Hotel. Rita is watching from the door to the bar. Millie, who is stacking boxes in the van, sees Rita and gives her a nod. The movers come out of the hotel's main entrance, each with another armful of boxes. Mover number 2 is carrying, among other things, a small green case.
Well, I think that's just about the last of it.
Yep.
Rita comes out to the street.
Hi, fellas. You're working awfully hard today.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you come in and have a drink? It's pretty warm outside.
Well, I don't know. Still got to drive these boxes over to the general's apartments.
Tell you what. It's been a slow day, and I'm craving some company. Come on in and have a couple beers on the house. Now, how can you say no to that?
I guess it wouldn't hurt. Just one drink.
We are getting paid by the hour. I'm still need to rush this job. I think we might take you up on your kind offer, man.
The movers take off their caps and smooth down their hair as they walk over to the bar entrance. Millie looks at them questioningly.
You, kid, you stay here and watch the van.
Aye, aye, sir.
After the men disappear into the building, Isabel lifts her head, quickly looks around her and points to the small green case. Millie opens up the case. There's a large package of papers and envelopes, tied together with a ribbon. She takes it out. She hurriedly stashes the package in one of the large decorative urns. Exterior, street outside Chesterton Arms Hotel. We hear the movers returning. Isabel is feigning sleep again. Millie is stacking boxes.
Sure you boys won't have another pin? I can draw you another.
Thank you, man, for your hospitality, but we really better not. Still got a long day ahead of us.
The two movers exit the hotel, followed by Rita. Rita looks at Millie questioningly, and Millie gives her a quick little nod.
Well, I wish you'd stay a little bit longer, but I guess I can't keep a man from his
Stanford. I sure do appreciate the drink and the conversation, ma'am. Maybe I'll see you again?
Stop by anytime.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Rita goes back into the bar. Mover number 2 rounds on Billy.
Kid, aren't you done with those boxes yet?
They shut the back of the van.
Actually, if it's the same to you two, I'll head back to the company now. They just sent me out to help you load up the van.
Oh, no, you don't. You're coming with us. Turns out that having a third man is pretty helpful sometimes.
But
Millie reluctantly gets into the van with the 2 men. The van pulls away from the curb and drives off, with Millie looking longingly back at the hotel. Isabel lies still for a few more moments. Then she gets up and heads straight for the urn. She reaches in and finds the package, which she buttons under her coat. She walks off briskly in the opposite direction of the van.
Thank you guys so much. That was so fun. All right, we're going to transition to our Q&A portion now. I hope you've had a lot of time to think about questions. Miljohn, do you want to come and join our actors? So I'm going to start us off with a question, and then a question, and then be thinking about your questions, and we'll open it up to the audience. So my question, it's a kind of two-part question for both Miljohn and our actors. So Miljohn, you often work with collaborators. I'd love to hear a little bit more about sort of why that is, or what your approach to working with collaborators like Jean is, as well as sort of this collaboration tonight. How does it feel to be collaborating with student performers? And then a follow-up, sort of second part of the question is, part of the nuance for me of this screenplay is that Isabel Rosario Cooper is no longer with us to play the role that you wrote for her. And so it's essentially a work that's never supposed to be fully realized, but we're here doing this sort of reading experiment. And so for both you and the actors, how does it feel also to sort of be in collaboration with the absence of Isabel Rosario Cooper, or the ghost of her, so to speak?
Okay. So for the first question, yeah, I do a lot of collaborations, but and these collaborations usually start out through a conversation, and it's actually kind of, it's kind of maddening to me that, usually an artist is never alone. They have conversations with other artists, with other people, and so a lot of times the work is generated through a kind of, a collective, not purely collective, but through conversations with another person, or a text or whatever, right? So in a way, I'm already entangled in these conversations, and so I just try to, create maybe a work that's the connection between me and other people, So, and and I think they're great. And I find it hilarious that that MacArthur and Eisenhower are played by Asian American actors. It's kind of, it's lovely. It's great. To sort of instrumentalize that, right? Like one of the issues really too is, it's nice to just be able to use whatever you want, and it's nice, for you guys to just do that and make it your own, and it's written in this anachronistic style, so it feels like it's from the 30s, you know. But yeah, so it's nice to, you know, in my fantasy, you just pluck it out, right, the way, yeah, and just use it for yourselves, which I think is great. Yeah.
Working with the ghost of Isabel Rosario Cooper.
I'll say I am from and live in the Philippines currently, so I felt weird kind of reading it, knowing that it was written for a Filipina girl who never got into the spotlight in the way she wished, and will never. I guess she kind of is now, like, goes, like, death, thanks to Miljohn, but, like, she will never be able to do it herself in person, and knowing that I have that possibility now, since I'm not under, like, MacArthur or a white man's, like, wing, it kind of feels in a way that I'm taking this opportunity that she never had, which feels strange and sad. Yeah. But also, I like that it was like a comedy, so it kind of brings like a lightheartedness to it, and I believe that she is somewhere around, like a ghost that just keeps coming up because she never had the chance to do it in life, so it's kind of like breathing new life into her.
I think generally when art is created or based around a real person in history, it's important to be able to humanize them and, you know, accurately portray them. So it's great that you've done a lot of research on Isabelle in general. And I think as performers, like, it's our job to make sure we also do our own research and understanding who these people were, you know, where they came from, their goals, aspirations, and make sure that they're, you know, when they come off the page, when they come off the paper, they're people, the audience can really empathize with them and understand them as a full human.
Yeah, I think there's a real power giving Isabelle kind of centrality within this piece, because it seems like the colonizers in this case, MacArthur and Eisenhower, kind of pushed off to the side. Whereas like in the historical narratives, like I've personally learned in school, it's always centered around the white men in history, the American perspective. It's interesting here that there's a very wily portrayal of Isabelle in this, and she's kind of like able to maneuver around everyone, as you said. And I really appreciate that about this screenplay.
I think also with a lot of Asian American theater, there's like an element of like archiving or like doing archival work in the stories as well. Like thinking about the work like David Henry Wong, and like M. Butterfly, or like work like The Chinese Lady, which is making the rounds right now. A lot of Asian American theater is focused on like how do we breathe narratives, like Serena was saying, into like the work, or like the lived experiences of people who weren't here, or were like incredibly oppressed during the time in which they were alive, and how do we like do right by their life after they've passed now in order to make sure their existences continue in perpetuity, to both like educate like new generations of Asian people on like who came before them, but also to like just do justice by the person who passed away.
Hi, my name is Chloe Chow. I'm the Artistic Director of the Asian American Theater Project, and thank you so much, Maggie, for having us again. So after being in conversation with your work, Miljohn, I noticed that some of your work and also the script kind of revolves around this idea of intimacy. So I was just wondering, where do you perceive intimacy with the audience within the script, especially after seeing your collaboration highlighting Arden and the intimacy of Isabelle's reading? And how does this live reading, or what does this live reading offer that a film might not, or vice versa?
One of the, this work really started because I moved to LA, you know. And so moving to LA, I started thinking a lot, of course, about Hollywood, right? And and I'm always interested in maybe turning a problem or an issue to use it for, you know, for maybe to turn it into something responsible, right? So in this case, I was thinking like, okay, so a Hollywood film usually foregrounds narrative before historical accuracy, you know? But what happens if the project is to obscure someone, you know, where you put a cloud of fiction around them, you know, so they won't be located, you know, and you know this usually this seems bad, right? Because that's sort of you know because it seems like you're not being represented properly or something, you know. But in this case, I wanted to think about, or I wanted to propose this strategy where it's more complicated, right? Where, you know, you can represent without representing, or representing without instrumentalizing. Like these types of other ways. Like ultimately, it comes down to what is the artist's responsibility in representing a historical person, right? Like a lot of times you take a person and you have them, you use them to speak your thoughts, you instrumentalize them to do something current, you know? And so I'd like to think about a kind of model where that doesn't happen that quickly. You know? I mean, it's also a game, right? Like it's, you know, you could say that I'm still instrumentalizing her, but you know, I'd like to at least problematize that relationship, you know, and show that maybe there's a way where you could keep someone you bring out in a kind of suspension, you know, where they might be located, contextualized, you know, for a specific purpose. Yes.
I have a two-part question about just the technical aspect of the work, and how did you achieve the blurring out in the film that's upstairs in the galleries? And then you said something about the hunting video being filmed in digital and then moved over to actual film stock, and why was that decision made?
Yeah, so the first one was also digital. It was a digital process. Where her figure was rotoscoped out, and you know, then you apply a blur on the rest of the scene. So I mean, it takes forever to do this. It takes a while. And the second question, I wanted to make a cinematic haunting, you know, and there's really a lot of artists think about this issue of film versus video, you know, and how do you address this issue, you know? For me, the dynamics in film is much clearer than it is with making a video. So I wanted to take this sort of more amorphous form and transfer it back to something much more clear. You see in film, your relationship to the cellular projection is much more clear. You know, or like you understand how it works, you know, spatially.
I had a question about ghosts too. Do you feel in the process of getting to know her over all these iterations of your work, have you felt at all haunted by the ghost of Isabelle? And do you feel that she's at rest through this process?
I don't know. I like to think that it's both, or it assures me in both ways, right? That she keeps haunting, which is kind of great. You know, that, you know, like her ghost perpetually haunts, and there's no way to, you know, to really locate her, right? She's free to roam. Yeah, but maybe ghosts also want to rest. Sure. Yeah.
First part of the question is, how did you locate the films that she was in, and like what was the process of doing research for them, getting your hands on them? And then, do you feel like you learned something about her as a person or her ambitions through her screen presence and performance that might have like seeped out beyond the kinds of roles that she was allowed to play, and then that become part of the way you collaboratively wrote her character?
Okay, so the first part, yeah, just through researching archive, you know, like the Warner Brothers archive. The thing that was surprising, you know, it'd be great if I could say, you know, this is exhaustively all her appearances. You know, but I found some films that accidentally, actually, like I found a pay list, you know, where her name was on, and that's never mentioned in any, you know, like she's not credited except through this random piece of paper, you know. So I'm sure there's more out there that I haven't seen, and it's kind of nice to also not have it be exhaustive, you know, that I can't, you know, there's just no way. And so in the second part, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm so, like, a lot of my work really is a kind of anxious relationship to you know, to contextualizing or sort of knowing someone's internality. And I know it's the opposite from being an actor, but I have a lot of, I have issues.
Carrying on with the question about archives, and also thinking about, you know, Stephanie Sahuda's work next door and how that often, you know, takes the archival work and obscures it, takes those people that are, you know, shown and then covers them back up again. So, and you've been talking a lot about keeping her in suspense, right? So were there many things that you redacted? I mean, you don't have to tell us what they are, but I was just wondering kind of if you made decisions about, you know, while looking through the archive and doing all your research about certain things that you wanted to put in the forefront and certain things that you chose to keep private or just in the archive, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did so much research, but none of it really, you know, appears in any of the works, you know. So I had this kind of horrifying meeting early on with this project. So I showed the first part, which is appearance, like a form of it. And somehow I was contacted out of the blue. For a while I was the expert on Isabel Cooper, weirdly. And so I got this random email of someone wanted to meet me, who was also kind of a researcher, and wanted to trade notes or whatever. And so this guy comes up from San Diego, and he's a World War II vet. He's really old. And we started talking, and the more we talked, the more it became more and more creepy, because he was really, really into her, like, you know? And yeah, and it was horrifying. And so I started thinking, like, okay, all right, I have to be really careful to completely not, have these types of, entanglements, or like a kind of fetishization or instrumentalization. Like, this is what I wanted the project to push against, but here it is, I'm having coffee with this person. Like this. Yeah. So in that way, there's also this issue of mind, and as historians, of course, there's research and all, and the fight is elsewhere, apart from mining, but yeah. But I also, part of the reason I had this insight is because of the problem with mining, history of mining things. Yeah, it's always an issue. And I haven't found a good way to address it. This is sort of my best way, or that's the strategies I employ in my work. Right, my anxiety or my issues with representation, mining, and these types of other types of entanglements. Yeah.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more quick questions, but Billy, do we have any questions from our online audience? No? Okay, they're very quiet. Anyone else have questions in our in-person audience? Yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. This was so excellent. So nice to see Dimples come to life. I want to come back to ghosts. And so maybe this last question could be about ghosts. Miljohn, do you have any other ghosts that you're particularly fond of? And do any of you have any ghosts that haunt you, like acinematic, artistic, historical? Or what are the ghosts that you're all thinking about?
I think cinema is, it's like a ghostly medium.
Just cinema.
Yeah, cinema itself.
Yes.
they're kind of in between life and death, right? So it's always a kind of suspension. And so that's why I like it.
I think this conversation about ghosts is really interesting, especially in the context of Asian American representation in theater, because I guess it's like I feel like to me there's sort of like tying into your conversation about sort of shared history and hidden history. Like I sort of see this in-group that sort of almost works to take up the space and thereby pushing a lot of Asian American narratives to sort of this corner. And as a theater group, like we really try to sort of dig into that corner and be the trumpet through which these stories can, proliferate. And so I guess to answer your question about like ghosts that I've always been interested in, my grandmother was adopted. We knew nothing about her family apart from a few letters that she wrote, like a boyfriend in the 50s, and then her family up in the north. And my Vietnamese is not good, and I don't particularly understand a lot of the letters, but I do. My mom has them, and my mom reads them often. My grandma's passed away now. And so I guess to me it's really interesting because I've always sort of seen my grandmother as this, this old lady, but then also that young girl in Vietnam in the 50s is a completely different person to me. I've never known her. I don't understand her writing. But, it makes me, it's always sort of blown my mind that, to me, like, the 1950s reads like a fairy tale, and it's what I read in history books. But, like, I see this, I see my grandmother, and she was, she's this person that, used to hold me and sing to me in Vietnamese, but then she's also this person who wrote these beautiful letters to, her partner and her family as a young girl. So, yeah, it's like that dichotomy is always fascinating.
I think what's interesting growing up, my family is Buddhist, so growing up with American media, it was interesting to see how ghosts were portrayed, because a lot of them were always evil or had negative intentions, I guess besides Casper. But my mother always told me that there are ghosts who are watching over you and they're kind of there to guide you. So, we had a little shrine for like Buddha, and my mom would say, whenever you do go like talk to Buddha or you're just in that space, there are ghosts who are there to guide you and give you, advice in some ways, even when you're feeling lost. And even like in this space, it was interesting to see how last year Diana wrote their own play about a family and exploring what the afterlife kind of looks like, and people's relationships with ghosts. And it doesn't always have to be scary. I think a lot of the times it's just these ghosts just want their stories to be heard. And I think there are spirits out there who they don't always have negative intentions. I think they're just existing all around us in whatever way they want to.
Yeah. There's also one more question, but just to answer this, I was working on kind of another part of the cinematic ghost, and I wanted to make a kind of racket to sort of interrogate my own projection, constructing a ghost, right? And so one of the things I did was go to the apartment building where she died and to interview the people that live there now, and ask them about if they've seen a ghost or not. Knowing that, of course, they would say, no, what are you talking about? And that would be sort of the thing. But then I started talking to this person, and this older woman, and then she just started talking about, yes, there's this ghost that lives here, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. And so I didn't, that stopped, right? Because I didn't want, like the way that I thought that making a headstone was the wrong move. It's sort of encroaching that territory. That's not what I wanted to do, or mark, or I think there's one more question. That's your question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this amazing work shared here today. I wanted to ask about how Isabelle, I think for me, as someone who's Filipino American, the idea of someone ending their life is very taboo for the group, and especially even the idea of mental health, right? So I guess I wanted to learn more about your thoughts on, as you're researching, how is Isabel known through this pop culture in the Philippines, and then how does that contrast here in the U.S.? And as you're also creating, or this archive now lives about Isabel, I guess what kind of conversations are coming up in both, Southeast Asia and other parts about these echoes of similar stories?
Yeah, I mean, in the Philippines, right, she's just one of many, right, sort of similar stories. Yeah, and so in the way, the people I showed this work in Manila, and the conversation there was mostly, a lot of people didn't know much about her, and so this the conversation around Isabel Cooper actually kind of generated more information about this person. But there's always, I mean, the problem really is that there's a problem with kind of like, what is the allure? Like why are you attracted to this person? And what does that say about you? And that's sort of the, and it's tied to like all these issues of colonization, imperialism, like a kind of, and how much of that we take on and project, and how our desires are kind of caught up in this World War II veteran, like desires.
Thank you, everybody, so much. We've gone a little bit over time, so thank you for sticking with us. It's always really exciting for me when I leave an event with more questions than there's been time to answer, and questions that may not have any answers. So thank you all for joining me for this really inspiring and generative conversation, and thank you again to Miljohn and to our Asian American Theater Project participants. Thank you all so much.